Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to NS9 Live. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we got Jim. We got Tyler. What up, boys?
What's happening?
I'm here.
Jesus.
Tyler's here so he doesn't get fined.
Exactly.
Basically, as always. You're so fun, Tyler.
I try. You know what? I try my hardest. And that's what people love me for. I try.
Do you, though?
No.
Perfect. That's why people love you. You're the epitome of don't try hard. And look at you. You're a successful man.
No, I'm not.
Well, true.
I always strived in my life to be as mediocre as possible. And here I am, baby.
Just enough to get by. Much like this entire tenure of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
If that. I wouldn't even give him that much credit.
Yeah, that's a bit aggressive.
But for real, how's everyone doing on this beautiful Thursday night? The Pirates back-to-back series victories. The Royals, the Cardinals, and now the first place Brewers. They're winning, baby. Al Davis would be excited.
Yeah, I mean, first off, it's Wednesday, not Thursday. But they are. They're playing good baseball right now. I mean, even since the trade deadline, they're above 500. Like you mentioned, 3 straight series wins, 2 of them against bad teams. But you know, they faced Burns, Woodruff, Peralta, and ended up winning 2 out of 3. Impressive stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what,
they're playing good ball.
It's kind of weird. I was led to believe all of April was all because of Austin Hedges and how well he did behind the plate. I thought they weren't going to win games without him.
Sneak peek. That's my next task. I'm looking up records of Pirates with Austin Hedges and without, and I will be posting that probably tomorrow because I decided to do stuff around the house and have a bit of a couple brews before the show. So I didn't do it.
You have to realize Austin Hedges was on the IL in April,
right?
For a lot of those wins. Yeah,
and then he got traded, and then
he got traded, and they started winning again. Meanwhile, the Rangers acquire Hedges and just tank.
They're not even.
The Pirates have played. The Pirates have played better baseball than the Texas Rangers since the trade deadline.
That's funny.
Is Austin Hedges a cancer? People are asking.
Clubhouse cancer?
People are asking.
Let us know in the comments. Do you think Austin Hedges is a clubhouse cancer?
I mean,
did Cleveland win it last year? No.
Correlation equals causation, right?
That's our motto. When it fits the narrative, as Jim loves to say.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, obviously, I knew Texas is out of it right now, but like, just not hitting the whole Austin Hedges correlation there too. It's crazy to think about. Like, they were dominating. They had an amazing trade deadline, and involved with that was Austin Hedges, and how south that has gone.
Yeah. But we're not here to talk about Austin Hedges, are we?
No.
Yeah, but I like to take a shot every now and then.
Every now and then, a jab is nice.
Yeah, just a little jab.
And it's nothing against Austin Hedges.
No, it's everything against him.
I don't have anything against Austin Hedges personally.
He is what he is.
No, he accepted the money. It's his fault.
No, I'm going to accept that money too.
No, it's not his fault.
Look, we just started off the show talking about doing the bare minimum and getting by.
Yeah.
If someone wants to give me $5 million,
I'm not taking $5 million to go be mediocre.
No, if someone wants to give me $5 million to do a poor job and just guarantee it to me, I'm going to take it.
Nope, not me. I'm a man of principle.
Well, screw that. I'm taking $5 million. I will be Austin Hedges all day long. I know my worth, and if someone's giving me more than that, I am taking it.
Oh yeah. Take the money around.
What I'm trying to say is, if there's anyone out there wanting to pay me more money to leave NS9, I'll take it. Just give me the check.
Well,
because I know my mediocre value.
Well,
Anyways,
No, I can tell you that you'll be
Huh?
stuck with us for a while.
what's that?
You'll be stuck with us for quite some time.
There could be a Ben Charrington and some content creator out there talking about the Pirates. You don't know that. There could be some very inadequate CEOs of some podcast conglomerates.
If someone wants to take DiNardo off our hands, by all means, please do it. I'm begging you, actually.
I
Kenny
will
says he's
trade
starting
him,
a GoFundMe.
and I will throw some things in.
But no, for real, we do have a lot to talk about today because there's been a lot that's come up. You know, we're going to be transitioning. I mean, obviously, NS9 is more a predominant show in the offseason because during the season, there's games and post games every time. So usually Thursday's an off night. So we do them Thursdays. But once the offseason comes, we transition back to Thursday. That way, we're not interfering with all you.
Can you get a
stupid
day
NFL
right at
fans.
some point during this episode?
Yeah. What did I say?
No, you said Thursday again. We're going to go from Thursday and transition to Thursday.
You've said Thursday 3 times.
Oh, we're going to go from Thursday, transition to Wednesday. So that way you guys can watch your football. So today we're doing it on Wednesday just because it was a day game. Jim's not going to be here tomorrow. There's a lot to talk about.
There's football. So we're
there's also football.
Yeah.
Sure. Whatever.
There's football.
Travis Kelce ain't playing. Who cares?
I do. I draft him in the fantasy draft.
You dummy. But hey, I guess we should probably start with the most predominant news right now that happened today. Andrew McCutchen, who said he was fine. We saw him feeling kind of discomfort, right? That's probably the way to put it. Afterwards, he said he was fine. I mean, he finished the at-bat. He was on second. Like, it seemed like he was probably just comfortable, whatever. No big deal. Turns out today
102.5 mile per hour double. And was running out of the box.
With a torn Achilles, apparently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Andrew McCutchen has a partially torn Achilles. He's going to be a walking boot. I mean, they didn't advertise it this way, but he's out for the season.
I think Kutch actually said he's done for the year.
Okay. So, with that said, not only does it just stink that Andrew McCutchen is no longer playing for the Pirates this year, right? I mean, it's September. You want to see something entertainment. Andrew McCutchen brings entertainment, but Andrew McCutchen is stuck on home run 299. 300 will not happen. So, a lot to digest here. A lot to digest on what this means for the rest of the season. Obviously, there's a lot of at-bats to go around the DH because he was occupying that. So, there's that aspect of it. There's the aspect of, does Andrew McCutchen return next year? Do you want to see Andrew McCutchen return next year? There was some Twitter chat, it seemed like yesterday or the day before, whichever day it was, on if Andrew McCutchen should return. Stupid. I'll tell you right now, he should return. But let's talk about it, guys. Where do you want to start?
I guess let's just start on just his season in general, since it's over now. I think when we brought him over, we were expecting someone who could maybe be like a league average hitter to an above average hitter. Last season was definitely his worst year of his career. But you kind of hope that he'd maybe find some, hometown, just feel more comfortable, being at home and being in Pittsburgh. And I think you can say that was definitely the case. The power definitely took a dip this year. There's no doubt about that. But the guy was still absolutely a productive member of this lineup. 115 weighted runs created plus right now, leads the team. He's been the best hitter on the team for the entire season. You can use your arbitrary endpoints all you want, but games in April and May and June count exactly the same as games in July and August. And when it's all said and done, Andrew McCutchen had an OPS of 775, right out of the DH spot, 378 on base percentage. He had a good season. And you're talking about a guy who loves being here. He wants to be here. There's not too many guys like that. And yeah, it was nice to see him come home. I mean, that home opener, I'll still like never forget that reaction that he got from the crowd. You know, it was a pretty cool moment just in general. And even like when we were down in spring training, just vibes were different, right? Because Andrew McCutchen was back. So he did a lot. I mean, the team obviously isn't doing well, but Andrew McCutchen, a lot of people came out to see Andrew McCutchen play baseball this year for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he put together a really good season for a 36-year-old guy.
Can I say something that, like, just because I feel like you're kind of minimizing that performance. Forget the 36-year-old guy. Like, he put a good season up, regardless of age. That's a good season.
Yeah.
The fact that he's 36 makes it more impressive than what it was. The fact that he was 36 and still having sprint speeds of when he was 28, that's what's impressive. But like, it wasn't even like he had a good season for a 36-year-old. He had a good season. He's competing with 24, 25, 26, 27, 28-year-olds. And like you pointed out, Jim, he had a better season than them.
Can I add one more thing? Just, Jim, you basically hit every single point about Andrew McCutchen's season. Denardo, you added on to that. I don't want to minimize the fact that Andrew McCutchen is an absolute dude. Like, he tore his Achilles and legged out a double like it was nothing. That's like Kobe Bryant level of hitting 2 free throws with a torn Achilles. Like, Andrew McCutchen is just flat out a dude.
Now, Kobe's was fully torn. Kutch's partially.
Kobe
what
wasn't
I add
sprinting.
here is all Kobe had to do was shoot. Kutch,
Yeah.
like you said, Kutch was sprinting with it. So Kutch was doing a lot more than Kobe did, just shooting.
Yeah. Andrew McCutchen is a dude. Like, he's a tough son of a gun. And it goes back to, like, the guy hasn't changed throughout his career. You go back to 2012 when Aroldis Chapman's beating him up in the shoulder and he doesn't even blink an eye. Like, the guy's he's an impressive human being. And he's a guy that, like, I'm not one to really get sappy about anything ever, but he's a guy that I don't know if we cherished enough.
There are certainly people on Twitter, I feel like, who don't cherish him enough. And I know we're eventually going to get into, you know, the off season and next year and the future of the Pirates and Andrew McCutchen. But yeah, I think just this season, you couldn't have asked for more, I think, out of Andrew McCutchen this year. Like this, he exceeded my expectations as far as a production, as far as like just like from a pure production standpoint. And then also just, you know, he was the first time he was here, he was the young guy. He was obviously the MVP, but like you didn't really look at him as like the team captain or like the leader or like the guy who would fire everybody up. But like he seems like he's kind of taken on that role now too, where like he's the veteran. Like the everyone looks up to Andrew McCutchen in that clubhouse. And you know, for a team full of guys who you're hoping to develop into the next contending Pirates team, that alone is very valuable too. So on top of the production, just on the field, huge impact off the field too. Just those young guys seeing a caliber player like him and how he just goes about his business on a day-to-day basis. A lot of locker rooms don't have a guy like Andrew McCutchen.
It's funny you say that because you're right. I mean, now Andrew McCutchen had a personality. We see the dances in the dugout, you know, from his old, when he was here the first time around. Like he was fun, right? But he wasn't as vocal. This big personality didn't really take off until he left. And that's when you found out, like, Andrew McCutchen.
Philly, it was Uncle Larry. There you go. Yeah.
There it is. Not even so much with the Giants, and God, dear God, he goes to the Yankees and, like, you know, shave everything, and he lost everything. But like, yeah, it felt like once he got to the Phillies, and especially because COVID happened, it just seemed like Andrew McCutchen just flourished. I'm not saying like the Tom Brady arc, because Tom Brady, like, no personality, you hated him, and then it was like, oh shit, Tom Brady's a funny dude. Andrew McCutchen was kind of that also. Like he had more of, I think, of a personality than like Tom Brady displayed and such beforehand. But it was like COVID happened, this whole Uncle Larry thing happened, and Andrew McCutchen was like, you know what? I'm gonna go on Twitter and have some fun. And he made different skits and different videos, and you're just like, wow, Andrew McCutchen's like a really funny dude. And it just seemed like he was much more relaxed. He, not that he never enjoyed the game, right? But he was enjoying the game in a whole other perspective. And you're right. So now he comes back to the Pirates. Like, this is the thing too. Like, you talk about not cherishing him enough. He was out of the Pirates. It's not often that you lose like a face of a franchise and then get that guy back. And Pirates fans were given that opportunity in spite of maybe management. Andrew had to pretty much come to them and say, hey, sign me. I'm only going to take $5 million from your pockets if you do it. And they said, sure. But back to you talked about the expectations also. I mean, all off season, we talked about, can Andrew McCutchen be better than last year? Yes, we believe so. And here's why. The lack of shift, he got hit really, really hard with the shift. This is why he was like an under league average hitter, but there's reasons to believe he can improve. That was also thinking he was going to be a part-time player. Andrew McCutchen was pretty much an everyday player this year. And in doing so, the best hitter at the age he is. Like, super impressive. So like trying to give the guy his flowers right now. The season Andrew McCutchen is having, I don't think anyone could have really, really been comfortable and confident saying that he would do this. And, with the season being cut short a month, have 473 plate appearances.
Yeah. I mean, he was essentially he was playing 5 days a week, 4 to 5 days a week.
We felt he could play more, but big picture, he played more than I think we thought when he signed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that you can look back now and you can say, he played dinged up pretty much that whole year. Like that elbow obviously wasn't 100%. Yeah, he kind of powered through some things where I think maybe if you would have put him on an IL stint for, a month or so, maybe he gets over it. But he, I mean, they basically he hit first or third pretty much this entire season. Like he's been a key piece of this offense. And like I said, he's been the most productive hitter all season long.
That's another really good point. He was hitting in big spots the entire year.
Yeah. I guess I guess I'll just be the one to ask it and just throw it to you two. Denard, you already gave your opinion, so nobody really cares to hear what you have to say, but there's been a lot of back and forth, like it's already been mentioned. Where are we at on bringing him back next year?
I think anybody, and I'm going to try to say this as nice as I can.
Oh, it's going to come out terrible. We know, Jim. You're an asshole. Go ahead.
Jim, to be fair, before you say it, I do genuinely believe that there are some pros and cons of both ways.
I'm going to say this as nice as I can.
Are you saying you see both sides?
I'm going to say this as nice as I can. Anyone who doesn't think Andrew McCutchen should be a Pittsburgh Pirate next year is just using some sort of galaxy brain shit argument in their head to try to convince other people that they're just so much smarter than everyone else. It's not that difficult, guys. It's not that difficult. He was the best offensive player on the team. He's the face of the franchise. He loves being here. The city loves him. He's back. Like, there's no reason to, we're going to discuss this, but like, if Andrew McCutchen wants to be a Pittsburgh Pirate next year, Andrew McCutchen is a Pittsburgh Pirate next year. There's more than a handful of people on this current roster, and there will be people on the 2026 roster who probably shouldn't be major leaguers. 2024 roster.
Are we talking about 2026?
Hey, he's probably right.
There's going to be people on the opening day roster in 2024 who probably shouldn't be wearing a Pirates jersey, right? They should be in Indianapolis. That's going to be the case. If you're telling me that you think you can find more value with your $5 million or whatever it's going to cost to get him back here next year than Andrew McCutchen, You're out of your damn mind. You're out of your mind. So yeah, if Andrew McCutchen wants to be a Pirate next year, he's a Pirate next year. There's no discussion. Like, and if you want to bring up all these reasons in your head, oh, well, he didn't play very well the last 2 months of the season.
Wrong.
You know, we don't have room for a DH only right-handed bat. Guys, again, he was the most productive hitter in the entire lineup. There's room for him. There's 26 spots on this roster. Joshua Palacios, Miguel Andujar, Vinny Capra, Jared Triolo, all these guys are on the team right now. Like, find him a spot. This isn't difficult to do. There's 26 spots. You can use one on the best hitter on your team who everyone loves and everyone wants to see, and he loves all of us, and he loves the city of Pittsburgh. Like, this is saying anything other than that is just you pretending like you're smarter than everybody else when it really isn't that difficult.
You're essentially showing you're a dummy because you're absolutely correct.
I said I was going to say in the nicest way possible.
I don't care. You should realize that. I will say what everyone's thinking. You're an idiot if you think he shouldn't come back. You want to talk about age? Fine. What is Andrew McCutchen proven right now? He's proven that age hasn't cost him anything. Again, he's showing he's just as athletic. What did we talk about this year? His sprint speed, still there. His bat speed, still there. Like, there's been no signs of regression. So, okay, what if the regression starts next year? Then fine. He's not your best hitter. So he might be your 7th best hitter. Okay. You sign him for $5 million. $5 million. $5? How much is a bench bat these days? How much is
they paid Austin Hedges $5 million?
Thank you. So you're gonna pay Andrew effing Cutchin to be here for $5 million. What's he gonna do? He's gonna fill seats, as he did this year, the best that they could on this awful roster, but they should be better next year. And of course, he's going to hit 300 next year. I mean, hopefully. He only has to do one more. So that's going to be a big moment again to celebrate. You want to do that this year, but like, he also is going to provide value for this team. I anticipate he will be limited more next year. Maybe he is a platoon DH, a guy coming off the bench, right, to give you that big at bat. Hey, like you said, Jim, it's not the big at bat coming from Jason DeLay or Alfonso Rivas or Vinny Capra. Like, it's Andrew effing McCutchen doing it. He's a capable hitter. And I don't see a reason not to have him on your team for 2024, because you anticipate there's going to be a upgraded roster, but we're not talking about it's going from a 90+ loss team to 105 win team that's going to be guaranteed in the World Series, that we have no room for Andrew McCutchen. We are just too damn good. We can't fit Andrew McCutchen on this team. That ain't happening. He's here next year. Plain and simple. End of conversation. You want to argue, you've already lost.
Yes. Let me just preface this whole thing by saying I absolutely, in my opinion, believe that Andrew McCutchen should be back. This team's in no position to say a guy like Andrew McCutchen, like, they don't need him. Jim, you brought up all the names. Like, this team needs a guy like Andrew McCutchen just because he is a productive hitter. They don't have productive hitters. They're not in a position to turn them away if they want to be here. I will mention, though, he will be 37 years old. And I think if we are thinking of him coming back, and I think this is where the missteps have been taken by people that might want to debate whether he should be back or not, they're thinking of this in a way that Andrew McCutchen is going to be in the same role he has been in this year. If Andrew McCutchen is your everyday DH next year, they didn't do enough in the offseason to me. I think it probably, if Andrew McCutchen is back next year, I think he probably needs to be more in a bench bat, more of a platoon DH type role, but in a spot where you can use that DH role in a more beneficial type of deal where a Brian Reynolds, not a Cabrian Hayes, you need him at third base every day, but a Brian Reynolds can get a day at DH, a Henry Davis can get a day at DH, Andy Rodriguez on his off days can go hit in the DH role. So I think that if Andrew McCutchen is to come back next year, it needs to be in more of a bench bat, maybe. I don't know that he can play right field that much anymore, especially after this, but it needs to be more in like what we thought he would be this year type of deal.
Yeah, and I think if he can play some right field next year, that's obviously a plus. Like you hope that, and I think he would have this year. I think he would have played more outfield this year if it wasn't for his elbow. Like that elbow being hurt kind of pushed him out of that spot. He really didn't get a whole lot of time out there. But when we saw him out there, he was good. Like
he's Henry Davis.
Yeah, like he was a good right fielder. So I don't see a reason why, like as long as rehab goes well, he prepares himself over the offseason, which you would expect him to do. He's done in his entire career. He's a professional. He came ready to play in spring training to be a right fielder. Like he was ready to play outfield. He played some games in the outfield in spring training, played some games in the outfield in April until that injury. So you got to assume that he takes the steps to be able to go out there and maybe he DHs twice a week and he plays right field twice a week. Like if he's able to do that, that's ideal.
Yeah, I'm with Jim. I hope he does come back healthy and is able to maybe play right field very, very sparingly here and there. Just give some more options for him, because I think like what Tyler's saying is exactly how I look at it. I would be more comfortable. He's coming back. I feel more comfortable knowing that he's coming back in a more limited capacity, because I want to use that DH spot as a position that we kind of talked about this year before Kutch even came on board. It's almost like your pseudo day off. When you have Andy catching, well, how do you get his bat in the lineup when he's not catching? Because he's going to have a few days off, right? Well, the DH spot, Henry Rodriguez, all the names you just mentioned, I don't need to go down it, but like the DH can now be like a pseudo day off. So Andy McCutchen is part-time there, and maybe a way of getting his bat in the lineup still, because you're hoping it's still productive next year in that sense, is he plays right field once a week, right? And then the rest, he's coming off the bench and giving you at bats there and such. So, yeah, I mean, I think that this team needs to be good next year. You need to collect good players, and Andrew McCutchen is a good player who's going to give you a deal. I'm sorry. That's a no-brainer for Bob Nutting. That's the easiest decision he's going to ever make in his lifetime, is just on Andrew McCutchen next year. And I guess the other thing I'm going to talk about is when he signed this year, it was already discussed and talked about that it's more or less like Andrew McCutchen's a Pirate until he says, I don't want to be a baseball player. Like both sides almost kind of gave you that vibe. Andrew McCutchen doesn't want to play for another team. He wants to play for the Pirates. And the Pirates are basically saying, like, if you want to play, we're going to sign you. So there was uncertainty how he's going to perform this year. If he already blew your expectations how he performed this year, how are you even questioning him coming back next year? If you're already thinking he might be here for multiple years next year and excited about that, how does he give you the season that he just did this year? And then you're debating whether or not he should go back next year.
Here's another like little wrinkle of it, and I don't want to be the negative one. There is a slight concern that what if he does fall off a cliff? You don't want to end it with DFAing him.
I don't think it would ever come to that. And I don't think he's going to fall off a cliff. That's the thing with him, like with just how good he is at just getting on base.
Yeah.
His floor is pretty damn high. Like you're seeing this season where like the power is not really there, but he's still been very productive because he's walking a ridiculous amount. He's getting on base. So I think his floor is still pretty high just because he's so comfortable at the plate and he gets on base. He's going to give you professional at bats, regardless.
I get that, but it's that high until it's not.
So the worst thing comes to worst. If what you're saying comes true and he falls off a cliff and he is terrible and he's hindering the Pirates at that point in time, you do what you have to do. But like, don't you still want to see him end his career with the Pirates other than ending it and falling off a cliff? Because he's going to play next year. And if it's not the Pirates, it's some team.
Don't let
if
it
it's
be
the
the Cardinals.
Rangers, if he's like, you know what, I want to team up with Austin Hedges again because the Rangers are going to bring back Hedges, again, and I'm going to go down the Rangers and I'm going to end my career with Texas. And he falls off that cliff, like he's fallen off the cliff wherever. I don't think it's a problem if the Pirates end up DFAing him. I think if it comes to that point, he's just going to retire. I think that's what like Jim was alluding to. I don't think it's going to come to the point where they actually DFA him. I think it might just come like, hey, I'm just going to retire because this Achilles hasn't healed or whatever it is. I'm just going to ride off into sunset, come back. I'm still within the Pirates organization. But like, I think that would just happen. But it still ends with the Pirates. Like at this point in time, it ends with the Pirates. And hopefully you want it to end more gracefully than that. But to Jim's point, I don't anticipate this cliff. We see what he is right now. Yes, there could be regression. Is he just a league average hitter next year? Like, is that all he is? We see the speed. We see athleticism still.
I want to address this too. And this isn't like, Dave, I'm not going to pick on you, but I just saw your comment here. Dave says, I'm late to the party, but I hope they don't resign him next year. I just hope they sign a better DH than he is now. I don't know where people got this idea that like he's not a good hitter. Like if you look at designated hitters in Major League Baseball right now, more than 300 plate appearances. Andrew McCutchen has the 7th best weighted runs created plus in the major leagues among DHs with 300 or more plate appearances. And the names above him are superstars like Shohei Ohtani, Bryce Harper, JD Martinez, Jorge Soler, who's like going off this year, right? Like those are the guys who were better than Andrew McCutchen. So when you say, I want to go out and get somebody better than Andrew McCutchen this year, that guy doesn't exist. And that guy doesn't exist for the $5 million that you can sign McCutchen for. So I just want to kind of put that out there. Like I get that like you want to get better, but like Andrew McCutchen's been the best hitter on this team. He's the 7th best designated hitter in baseball among hitters with more than 300 plate appearances at the position. Like you're not going to find a better designated hitter. You're not going to find him unless you dish out $40 million for Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, I guess that's what talk about roster construction. You could find something better. I'm not going to come out here and say you can't, but what I'm going to say, if you're like looking at your resources and how much money you have to spend, Andrew McCutchen is one of the better hitters, and you're going to get him for like $5 million. That's a deal. So now you have more money to reallocate and like go get that big time corner outfielder now because you have your DH who is positive in value very cheaply. So now you can focus on spending those money and resources elsewhere. You want to get the big time starting pitcher? Now you can. You want to get the big time corner outfielder, center fielder? Now you can, right? That's what, again, Andrew McCutchen presents. There you go. Adam Duvall. Freaking Jim. But
also Adam Duvall is like elite defensively. It's like, and he hit like Adam Duvall. I am 100% aboard the signed Adam Duvall train, but you can have both. Like you can have both. You can have both guys. You don't have to have just one or the other.
But again, like that's what Andrew McCutchen presents you. He presents you, you're getting a good at bat and having more resources to go get something better elsewhere.
Adam Duvall is also like a year younger than Andrew McCutchen. Just a random thought there, and I don't really want him ever. But yeah, keep Andrew McCutchen.
He does have more power, though. Right.
I mean, sure. Like Jack Sawinski has more power than Andrew McCutchen. I don't want Jack Sawinski over Andrew McCutchen.
Again, all you're doing is stating case for Andrew McCutchen.
I'm not arguing that I literally started
I'm not
this.
saying you are.
I know.
It is like ironically, like for all the people who are doubting Andrew McCutchen, like that statement right there is just telling you why you want Andrew McCutchen on this team next year.
This team's just not in a position to turn away good hitters that want to play for this team. Like they can't do that. They don't have enough good players on this team to tell a good player, we don't want you. Like you said, Donardo, for cheap.
Yep. So I think it's safe to say we all want Andy McCutchen next year, and it's really no point of arguing it. The sake of arguing it is to tell all the dummies that they're wrong, but he's back. Like it's already a done deal, more or less today. He is back next year.
And I just want to say, I tried being nice.
No,
I'm happy for you.
Some people don't deserve it.
True.
Okay, so now that we're 36 minutes into this talking about Andy McCutchen, there's definitely more to talk about. We are going to talk about Andy Haines today. We're going to definitely talk about Brian Hayes. Which do we want to talk about first? Do you want to end the show positively, or do you want to keep the positive train rolling?
Who's saying either's going to be positive?
Who's saying they're going to be negative?
Let's talk about Andy Haines. That news came out yesterday. Let's talk about Andy Haines.
Bobby Fulton says he wants Andy Haines back. This definitely was not in response to Andrew McCutchen. All right, Jim, go ahead.
I thought you're the host.
You were talking, weren't you?
No. I said, let's talk about Haines.
All right. Well, you said yesterday it was announced. It wasn't really announced. So Derek Shelton was on 93.7 The Fan.
Yeah.
They pretty much asked him a question. Is Andy Haines returning? And he said he will be back in 2024. A lot of Twitter talk about that. Oh, my God. Derek Shelton has Andy Haines back, and he's going to be back here. And this team's pathetic, and it's not real because they've already claimed Andy Haines is back. I guess I'll start. My stance on this is, what the hell did you expect him to say? Was Derek Shelton going to be on 93.7 The Fan and be like, nah, I don't like Andy Haines. He's not good, and I don't expect him to be back next year. Like, he's saying the right things. And I guess also, too, that people are saying, well, I mean, what about just no comments? Like, I'm not going to comment on this until next year. That's fair. That's fair. But I guess what I say to that, too, is saying no comment is also not having someone's back. Like, Derek Shelton is a leader of this clubhouse, the leader of this organization, in the public eye. He's the voice. I want that leader to have everyone's back. Like, what happens in public and what happens behind the scenes are two different things. Don't throw me under the bus out in the public. Don't be that guy. Derek Shelton did what he should have done. This doesn't mean Andy Haines will be back next year. Anything that happened in that interview is pointless. That doesn't change my position, my thought on anything about Andy Haines. Derek Shelton just simply said what he needed to say. He had his guys back. That's what you want in a clubhouse.
I think what you just said is stupid. Like,
we are going to fight again, aren't we?
Expand upon that. No fighting this time, because I want to get into.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to fight with you here, but I think what you said is just dumb. I think you could easily just say, you know what, we're going to evaluate this season. We're going to look in the offseason, see where we can get better, and move on. You don't have to say, he'll be back. Granted, we are Pirates fans. We heard that Clint Hurdle was going to be back. We heard Ray Sears was going to be back. We've heard a lot of people are going to be back. They didn't come back. So I don't put much into this. I don't really like Derek Shelton saying, yeah, he's going to be back. Like, it's nothing. But I don't put much stock into it. I just think you saying that him saying no comment or yes, he'll be back is stupid, because those are two completely opposite things, when he could have just taken the middle road and done what he's done all year and just played in the gray. Just like you.
Tyler's taken the middle road twice tonight.
No, I'm just saying what he should have done as a leader of this franchise. Just say, we're going to evaluate everything in the offseason. We're going to try to get better every day, and we'll look at ways to improve. That's all he had to say.
I'm going to work on that, Kenny.
So let me ask you this before I go into it. DiNardo, you mentioned, what else is he supposed to say? Tyler, you're talking about, again, like what he's saying. Let me ask you this. Should Andy Haines be back next year?
It's also a stupid question. No.
So no. Your answer is no.
Hell no. I'd say
No.
more swear words if we weren't on this show.
So I'm just
If
going to
he
play
is
devil's
back,
advocate
we will
for the hell of it.
uncensored
So,
version of the show,
all right.
and we will.
So here we
say
go.
swear.
So here we go. Devil's advocate just for the hell of it. The Pirates offense has gotten quite a bit better this year as opposed to last year. Batting average is up, OBP is up, slugging is up. Your key your key people who you actually care about in this lineup, right? Have any of them gotten any worse under Andy Haines?
They're being
No.
outperformed by a 36-year-old.
But like they haven't, who also worked with Andy Haines like before he got here.
Twice.
So let's kind of like let's kind of dissect this, right? Like we're talking about the key guys. Brian Reynolds, he's kind of the same guy as he's been like last year. Like he's dropped a little bit this year, but he's fine, right? Like you're not worried about Brian Reynolds.
Did you say he dropped a little bit? Okay.
But he was also his hitting coach last season too. So like you can't if you look at Brian Reynolds under the tutelage of Andy Haines, he has a 118 weighted runs created plus. He's a good hitter, right? Jack Sawinski, better hitter this year than last year. He's frustrating as hell, but he's a better hitter this year than he was last year. Brian Hayes, better hitter this year than he was last year. You can say all you want about, oh, well, it's that whole story about him going to Joe Nunnally. Joe Nunnally is responsible for all of this. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit who he went to. Andy Haines is the major league hitting coach. Maybe Andy Haines was like, hey, you know what? What we're doing isn't working. Go see Joe and see if that works. Like that's part of being a coach. That's part of all of this, right? So like the Pirates offense, as bad as it's been, it's gotten better this year. The key people who actually matter have not done poorly under Andy Haines. The people who suck right now on offense are the shitty players. Like the shitty players suck.
Tyler, did you know Henry Davis is shitty?
So
did you know Andy Rodriguez was shitty?
Taking rookies out of the equation because they're going to struggle anyways right off the bat.
But I thought that Jackson.
I'm talking.
He
did. He was a rookie last year and he got better. He did. He got better. So
good
like
for
that.
Him.
There you go. He got better.
Basically, last year didn't matter. So he's just a guy this year.
Jack Sawinski, you could expect him to struggle last year, as a rookie. And guess what? He got better in year 2 under Andy Haines. That's all I'm saying is like you can't point to a single person on this offense and be like, you know what, Andy Haines, he really messed that guy up.
Okay, are you done? Oh, Brian Reynolds worked under Andy Haines twice, and he's a 118 weighted runs created plus under him. Good. What was he there before? 139. So 139, Andy Haines.
How about the year before that?
123, 108. The year before that, cool, COVID, knocking it out. The year before that, 130. So if you knock out the COVID dumb, stupid year,
which
his
still
worst
counts.
2 years are under Andy Haines. You want to dismiss?
You can't just say if you take away his worst year, his 2 worst years, or you can't say that.
COVID was dumb. But fine.
It was dumb, but it's still
I'll give you that.
It was still
2 out of the 3 worst years were under Andy Haines. That's all. Just 2 out of the 3, much like the worst year of Christian Yelich was under Andy Haines. But anyways, I digress. You want to talk about Brian Hayes? This is the problem. This is the problem I have with freaking the pitching coach, with Oscar Marine. Like, great. You want to say it's not working for us? I found someone to help you work with. When does it work for you? When can you do your job? Let me be the pitching coach. I'm just going to send everybody to tread. Here, do my work for me. Let me collect my $3 million check. I know it ain't that much, but I'm worth that because I can make everyone better by sending them to other people. That's what I do. I'm a great triage. The fact that Andy Haines failed and Brian Hayes had to go back to his AA coach, and that's the guy that fixed him, and Andy Haines can't make a mark on anybody. You want to say Jack Sawinski improved? Yes, he did. He's still a very flawed player, extremely flawed player. Andrew McCutchen is a pro's pro. I'm telling you, he ain't listening to shit about Andy Haines is telling him. He's going out there doing what he does. Reynolds, 2 out of 3 worst years of his career under Andy Haines. Brian Hayes has been terrible, goes as AA coach, and now he's hitting his stride, as we'll talk about later. Who else is there? Every rookie that's come up has been terrible. Look at the Cincinnati Reds. They come up. They're good. They're good. They're good. The Pirates comes up. They're good. And then Asuda, they're trash. Just complete garbage. The only one is Peguero. The only one. So I'm waiting for that to turn. It felt like there was like a few days where it was going to, because Peguero just stopped swinging at things. And then he was like, no, this ain't right. I've seen how this has gone. I'm going to continue swinging. And he gets hits. Everybody has been, there's been no improvement. No improvement that Andy Haines can stamp. The only, I'm not going to say big time improvement. The improvement that excites you is the one that's currently happening with Brian Hayes, and there's nothing that Andy Haines can mark on that. There's nothing.
Let me ask you a question. Are you blaming rookies struggling when they get called up on Andy Haines?
I'm saying I'm not blaming rookies struggling on Andy Haines. That's going to happen. But there's not one that has come up and seemed to find any stride.
Peguero. You mentioned the one.
Peguero. Okay, Peguero. That's what we're going to hang our hat on. Peguero.
Who hasn't been that
It's
good?
cool that the Reds are like fighting for the playoffs, and the Pirates and Andy Haines has Peguero in his league average offense.
I think you're confused on just what a hitting coach does, if we're being honest. Like, a hitting coach isn't teaching people how to hit. Like,
so
the hitting coach,
everyone,
like, by definition,
there's a lot of guys on here that are aggressive
hitting coach.
Like, imagine Sterling Marte under Andy Haines.
What about him?
The problem with Andy Haines is the same problem we're finding with Oscar Marine, which is the complete opposite of how they define themselves. We are going to find the traits of the players, where they excel, and bring the best out of them. And it's now turned into a one-size-fits-all all over again, offensively and pitching-wise.
You don't know that. You're just speculating.
Okay.
What I'm pointing to is the team got better. The players all
did they?
suck.
Or is it because they don't have Josh Van Meter and they have Andrew McCutchen?
I'm not going to blame. They have Josh Van. We have a Josh Van Meter at home. His name's Vinny Capra. Like,
and he has how many plate appearances this year opposed to the Van Meter last year?
There's no difference in this year's roster from last year. Like, the roster's still terrible. Like, the roster's terrible.
No,
the roster is awful. We're employing a shortstop who can't hit the ball out of the infield hardly.
Who was the shortstop last year? Kevin Newman.
O'Neal Cruz was our shortstop for the most part.
Finally, and the rookie who struggled then caught on.
Who also caught on when he made the majors, thanks to Andy Haines teaching him how to hit. There you go.
Can I talk now?
Go, Tyler.
Okay. You guys take your swigs. The Pirates last year were 27th in runs. This year, they're 24th. I believe they were 29th in WRC plus last year. This year, they're 26th. Somewhere around that as a team. I think that's like, you cannot debate that this team had a better roster hitting-wise this year than they did last year. There is no debate about that. At least for the first half of the year, it was night and day, the amount of talent they had compared to last year. Last year was a complete shit show. So naturally, you should improve that much. Jim, you mentioned all those guys and their improvements. I think it might be possible that we can write some of those improvements off as just the offensive environment in baseball in general. I don't know that there's a planet you can really argue that Andy Haines has done enough to retain his job. The minuscule improvements that we have seen are just not enough. And I think just if you look at it simply as runs and the way that this team approaches trying to score runs, that's enough to tell me this guy is not the guy for the job.
I just want to point out, you said there's not a planet that one can argue that he deserves to come back. Yet, I just carried on this argument for 20 minutes, and I don't even believe it. I think he should be gone.
Exactly. You're even admitting that you were a big old dummy about it.
argue
I'm
that
just
Andrew
here.
McCutchen should not be a pirate.
I'm just here to argue with you. We can't all agree on everything. It makes for boring TV.
All I want to say is all Jim's doing is telling I'm right. I am correct.
Jim, isn't it fun though to like take the other side and just argue with Donardo because he gets so rowdy?
It is. Yeah, it's good.
I
It
hate
felt
gotta
weird
do
being
it.
on this
That's
side.
why I
of it.
tell them they're a dummy.
I got to do it more often.
It felt weird being
People
on
that
this
say
side. of it.
Andrew McCutchen shouldn't be here is a dummy, and Jim is also a dummy right now. And Tyler was a dummy, fighting my analogy a few weeks ago. It's okay. You're allowed to be a dummy here and there.
Okay, so back to the original point, though. I'm kind of with you, Donardo. If you're Shelton and you're asked that question on the radio, you've got to have your guys back. So I'm gonna say that. But yeah, Andy Haines shouldn't be back next year.
Tyler's a dummy.
No, I think my way of handling it was way better. It doesn't make you look like an idiot by saying, yeah, he's going to be back next year. And then you fire him 2 days after the season.
But you know what? Wearing that gains a lot of respect.
No,
Like,
it
I'll be
doesn't.
the idiot. I will be the idiot.
No, it doesn't. If I'm in the locker room and this guy's going around saying, yeah, he's going to be back next year, I'm like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Why are you telling me he's going to be back?
Because you're in the locker room and you know what's happening.
No, they don't. The guy can't even stand up for it when they get rung up on a ball 3 feet outside the zone. You think he's telling them what's happening?
No, I'm saying you're in the locker room and you're witnessing what's happening. What happens behind closed doors is a lot different than what happens in the public.
Yeah, because after Brian Reynolds gets rung up and a ball in his eyes and he goes back, trust me, I wanted to get rung up on that one. I wanted to get tossed there, but I couldn't because the optics would have been bad.
But he says the way that this just flipped on Tyler. It is kind of funny. We were all funny with Jim, and now everyone hates Tyler.
I wasn't fighting with anybody. I'm just hanging out.
Yeah, we're just having a good time.
Hanging around.
You're the one fighting.
Yeah, Nardo.
So let's just say this. We all agree Andy Haines should be gone.
No
Fair?
shit.
Okay. So he should be gone. What Shelton said, I think, and I think we all agree on that, like what Shelton said probably has no meaning. Is that fair? Do you actually take anything that he said? What I will say,
for the people who are listening to the podcast, we are shaking our heads. No, we do. You should. you should not take anything he says seriously. You take it with a grain of salt, for sure.
What does worry me a little bit is Charrington coming into play here. That worries me a little bit. And it's not so much for the reasons I talked about. It's because I don't trust Charrington to make the right decision. And I feel he's too loyal to a fault. Like maybe that's the issue. Like I hire this guy. I got to save face. I don't want to fire him. So I'm just going to have him hang around. That worries me just the tad bit. But yes, I do believe he should be gone. And nothing that Shelton said yesterday changes my mind on anything about Haynes' future.
Yep.
All right. So if we want to take
positively?
this, do we want to take this to the next piece, which is Andy Haines' huge success story? I'm talking about Ke'Bryan Hayes. Ke'Bryan Hayes has been just on another level. We can go through the stats and everything, but if you've been watching everything, the dude's just a different hitter, like different approach. He's hitting the ball hard. He's hitting it in the air. He's pulling that ball in the air, and it's generating a lot of home runs. 8 home runs since coming back from the IL, 9 home runs, I think, now after today's. So, like, the guy is just he's doing everything that we like hoped that he would do. And it kind of goes back to I've said this multiple times where like I've got faith. You gotta have faith that a guy with his athleticism and with his makeup is gonna figure it out at some point. I had no idea when that point was gonna be. But I think that point is now. Like, I think he's finally figured it out. And it's just like a basketball player. Like, you just want to kind of see that ball go through the hoop a few times. Brian Hayes has seen that ball go through the hoop for the longest stretch of his career now. His confidence has to be flying high. Like, just keep doing what you're doing. He's currently one of the best third basemen in baseball. Like, over the last month or so, he's an MVP. He's playing at an MVP caliber pace the last month with his glove and just how elite it is. He's probably the best defensive player in baseball, maybe second best because Tatis is just doing crazy things out in right field right now. But best defensive infielder in baseball, best defensive third baseman. And if he adds this power that we're now seeing, along with you're seeing him like walking more now, you're seeing him get on base. He's really becoming just a complete player. And it is really, really cool to see.
Yeah. And you talked about the walk rate there. Like, strikeout rates dropped the dip too. I think the other fun part to watch about the season with Brian Hayes is seeing like him striving to become a better hitter, because go back to spring training, we saw signs of him trying to pull the baseball. Well, he went back to same old Brian Hayes there earlier in the year. Then we saw him try to add the toe tap. Well, that worked for a little while. It wasn't working. Now we're seeing this Brian Hayes that is kind of a mixture of everything. It seems more like what we saw in spring training. And I'd said before on the shows that I think he was doing a really good job of hitting mistake pitches. At this point, I think he's just as locked in as you can be. Like Jim earlier today, it's a fastball in on the hands and he's just able to turn on it. Like, he's just able to get out on a baseball very well right now. And the reason I bring up the little phases we've seen throughout this year is that I don't know that we saw that in the last 2 years. He was the same guy every single day. There was nothing changing ever. It didn't look like he was trying anything ever. He was just content in trying to hit the ball the other way, and it was going to work no matter what. It was bashing your head against the wall. This year, I think we've seen Brian Hayes actually try some new things, and right now, like you said, he found something that is working at this point.
That's a very good point. And the fact that he's trying things, that's very fair, because it's funny, like, we've ironically compared him to like the Eric Hosmer, right? Eric Hosmer is notorious that he hits the ball very, very hard, right into the ground. And Eric Hosmer is just so stubborn. I'm not going to change a damn thing. And we saw his career went. And like Brian Hayes, like, has that same type of stuff. Like, he hits the ball very, very hard, but doesn't get it up in the air. You know, you can see reasons why he could be a good player. Like Jim talked about, and you've definitely hit this hard this year too. Like that, but like every reason. This is why I think he could be a good, positive offensive player. It's just if he's willing to buy in to do some things, and like he never has. He's been like almost on that Eric Hosmer stubbornness path. And this year he's tried and tried and tried, it seems, and now it's he's figured it out. Hopefully, so that's a very good point. I'm glad you said that.
You're welcome.
But yeah, real quick. I mean, just since his return from the IL, so you can go back to June if you want, but let's just say since coming off the IL, August 2nd, he's played 30 games. He's hitting .306, 8 homers, weighted runs created plus going into today of 142 over that time frame. He's just, I said, he looks like a completely different hitter. He looks like the guy who he was rated so high on prospect lists. I think people kind of forget like how highly rated Brian Hayes was as a prospect. His rookie season, he graduated prospect lists as the number 6 prospect in baseball is when he graduated. And the reason for that is, one, his floor was extremely high. Like, it was like, this guy, even if he doesn't hit, he's going to be an everyday major league third baseman. Like that was like a given because of how good the glove was. But then it was like, if he does hit, you're talking about a dude. And the first 3 years of his career, he's been, you kind of saw that as rookie that first month in 2020, but you can kind of chalk, like, that was just a very short stint. This is the longest that we've seen him really perform at the level that he is. Like, you've always seen spurts from Hayes, like where he'll have like a week where you're like, oh man, like has he figured it out? Yeah. And then he just goes back to being the same guy. We've never seen him do it this good for this long. And that's what's exciting right now, is because if he is this good, Donardo, you mentioned it today. Like, if Brian Hayes is this good, it really changes the trajectory of this rebuild, because then you can count on, if you can count on Brian Hayes to not be like a 3-win guy, like we just kind of expected him to be just by going out there every day. But if Brian Hayes can be a 5 or a 6-win guy because he learned how to hit, then you've got Brian Reynolds as like he's not even your best player anymore. Like, he's a secondary piece that's really nice to have. And then you add O'Neal Cruz, and you just hope that he can be what we hope he is, right? We missed out this whole year, but you take those 3 guys and you're like, okay, we've got something with these 3 guys. And then you plug in Andy Rodriguez, you plug in, Henry Davis, and you hope that his bat develops. And then you start piecing together this team. Liover Peguero looks like looks like there's something there, right? You start piecing this team together, and you're like, you know what? This team now with an all-star Brian Hayes, you could see a good team in the future. Like, if that's the case. So it's exciting. Like, it's, out of everything that has happened this season, Brian Hayes figuring it out is by far the most exciting thing.
It's funny, like, that gets brought up right now, because I feel like we went over this in March of, we are very excited to see what Brian Hayes could be. Then we had like 3 months of being like, Brian Hayes is he's still Brian Hayes.
It is what it is.
And then we're going to bookend the season, hopefully, with Brian Hayes is exciting again, guys. And Jim, you mentioned like the prospect potential. Like, I'm pretty sure if you still look at his Fangraphs page, they still say he is a swing tweak away from unlocking star potential. Like, I think if you bring him up, it's still there.
That's like literally word for word. Hayes graduated as an elite defender, a swing tweak away from unlocking more in-game power and becoming a star, right? So that's like,
God, I got a good brain.
It is a good brain. You just must study Fangraphs pages.
Well, to be fair, I've been looking at Brian Hayes' Fangraphs page for the last month and a half.
But no, you're right. Like, we've seen this. Like, this is who you didn't know when he would tap into this, but if he's figured it out, becoming a star, right? The last 3 words of that sentence. That's what he's doing.
This is huge. My biggest critique this year, and why I've been so frustrated on the 2023 Pirates, isn't so much the rookies. We talk about progression and who's getting better, and we talk about win and loss record, right? Like, the 2022 season to the 2023 season, to this point, the records aren't much different. Of course, they are now. But, for much of the season, it wasn't. The biggest critique I had is there's not much improvement Reynolds, not much improvement from Brian. Like, there's not a whole lot of improvement in these guys. As a matter of fact, for much of the season, it was down. They regressed. Brian was worse than even last year. Reynolds doing worse than last year. And the reason that they're winning today also isn't so much because they finally caught up the Young Bucks, right? Like, they got rid of Hedges and Santana and the Troys and Rich Hills. They called the Young Bucks to perform. And no, honestly, the reason that they're winning right now is because Hayes is dominating. Reynolds is dominating, right? Keller's back to dominating. The real reason they're doing really, really well now is the vets. But what I want to say about Hayes is, we talk time and time again, if he can just be league average. Our ask was league average Hayes. Like, that's what we craved. If we could just get that, I'll take it all day long. You know, he's a good player even where he's at, but like league average makes you feel really, really good. The other thing about Ke'Bryan Hayes is he was always good for the contract. That's what he was. Like, listen, guys, that contract, I know you're talking about this bust, but look, he's worth the contract. Guess what he could actually be now? Just good. You know, like he doesn't have to build in qualifier. It's not like, well, hey, you know what, for the contract, it's not too bad. He could be good. And this changes everything, like Jim's talking about. If you're walking away this year, Reynolds continues doing what he's doing. You walk away feeling better about Reynolds, right? The May, June, July isn't that big of an issue now. Like Reynolds is still a good player. Kutch comes back next year. Like all these other things. Mitch Keller's still a good player, but like Ke'Bryan Hayes could potentially be a star. That is huge. That is huge. The glove plays. If this back can be anywhere near this, if he's the top of the lineup guy for like the rest of his Pirates career, holy hell, you're cooking. Like you're cooking.
So I guess my question there is, are you guys in the same boat as me where the bar is kind of risen on him, where we talked a lot about him being a league average hitter? I'm kind of at the point where I need a little bit more now because we've seen him do it now for a little bit of a stretch, provided that this lasts the rest of the year where he stays on at least a good track. If he continues this through the rest of the month, for me at least, the bar's gotten risen a little bit. I need more than average.
So, Pat Lackey brought up a good point on Twitter today. And yeah, like I would love more than average. I would love like what he's doing over this last month to be Ke'Bryan Hayes, which is, 900 OPS. I don't think it's like reasonable to expect that, but you've got to be pretty happy in general if Ke'Bryan Hayes can give you a 750 to 770 OPS and play Gold Glove caliber defense year in and year out. Like if he's doing that, you're pretty damn happy, right? And he even brought up, he's like, if a generational talent third baseman who's an average hitter, it's Brooks Robinson. Brooks Robinson, OPS plus for his career of 105. Brooks Robinson was an average hitter, you guys. Like, average hitter. Career OPS of 723. Like, you wouldn't really think that because you're like, oh, Brooks Robinson, best third baseman of all time, right? Brooks Robinson won 16 Gold Gloves, right? He was elite defensively. But, like, I'm not saying Ke'Bryan Hayes is Brooks Robinson, right? But Brooks Robinson, elite defender, average hitter.
I think there's a third part of that, though, and it's probably the most important part. He's got to stay healthy.
No, you're right. He's got to, and that's something that he hasn't been able to do. The other thing, too, Brooks Robinson did have like a stretch where he was like a really good hitter. So that helped. Yeah. So, but yeah, like if Ke'Bryan Hayes can put together like a 3 or 4 year stretch where he's like really good, right? And then he goes back to being kind of average. Yeah. Take that all day.
Yep. And that's what I'm going to say. Like to Tyler's point, I still need more. But what makes me feel really good about this is, as Jim said, this is the longest we've seen him do it. This isn't like the 1 or 2 week stretch where it's like, hey, Hayes is back, right? Everyone says on Twitter, Hayes is back. But you all say it facetiously because you're waiting for it to just be gone. He's done this for quite some time now. So this leaves you hopeful like this is actually more legit than it is fallacy. So if he finishes the season, and Tyler, you and I talked about this on, I think, a post game once, right? Even if it's league average, he finishes out the season, that's still a positive sign. But I think I'm with you. Like, I don't want to see league average anymore. Like, I want to see this train continue. Doesn't have to be like a 170 weighted run created plus the rest of the year. But like, if he's giving me like a 110 to 120 rest of the year, I feel comfortable that this is a fundamental difference. And now where the floor is no longer 90 weighted run created plus, and hopefully we get 100. Now the floor is like league average, like you're saying. Like now at this point in time, Brian's kind of shown me, and he's now entering his prime. You know, the power really starts to come out anyways for most ball players. That like he can do this. He can do this. This isn't just a facade that happened in 2020, this weird COVID year. Jim, weird COVID year where weird things happen, like a Brian Hayes being the best player in baseball, and Brian Reynolds being the worst player in baseball. That's why you throw it out. But like, this isn't just like a weird thing. This seems more sustainable. So now it's like, yeah, Tyler, to your point, the floor is like league average. You can do it, Key. You can definitely do it. So do it.
I think the other part that's encouraging is that the improvements have come from the power department. I think when we were looking at it before, it felt like if we were looking at a league average type of Brian Hayes, it was going to be more on an average type of deal with a higher on base percentage, limited pop, things like that. I will take the Brian Hayes that's a league average hitter that shows pop rather than the guy that's on base a bunch with like a 360 slugging percentage.
Yeah,
that's a personal preference.
No, you're right. I mean, especially on a team that's so like power deprived as the Pirates are. We've seen just how important home runs can be. You saw Willie Adames, with a 3-run homer today in the first inning. All of a sudden, Brewers are up 3-0. Right, like home runs help a lot. When you're deficient in other ways. But I think you're right. The power is impressive. Like he's never come close to this sort of power potential throughout his career. The slugging percentage currently at 450. Like you would have told me Brian Hayes was going to slug 450 this year, I would have said you're out of your mind.
Dude, he's closing in on Pedro Alvarez slugging percentage.
Yeah, like seriously. So like he's becoming a dude. Like he has been a dude this last month.
Yeah.
I even used the word electric the other day. Like he's been electric, like providing you offense when you need it, playing just unbelievable defense. He's been really fun to watch during this whole streak. And it's just so refreshing to see because he's such an easy guy to root for. Like it's just so easy to root for. And it's really cool to see him doing what he's doing right now.
So I want to point this out because when Tyler said it, I just want to look it up to kind of give a perspective. So like last year when he had that hot streak, so from 523 to 6'9", 63 plate appearances, batted 327, on base 413, slugging was 491, which that's good, but like that's your hot streak. Like that was you at your best, 491, right? 63 plate appearances, 3 doubles, 2 home runs. So like what you're saying, Tyler, it's kind of true. Like when he got hot before, it's not because there's a whole lot of power. The power is there right now. So what, 8 home runs? I mean, now I lost it, Jim, but since 8 home runs, 3 triples, and then how many doubles too? The power's there. He's slugging like over 700 right now, isn't he? So like even at his peak in 2022, when he was at this hot streak, he wasn't even slugging 500 then.
For the record, when Pedro Alvarez hit 30 home runs in 2012, he had a 467 slugging. Brian Hayes is closing in on that. Brian Hayes is closing in on that.
For the season, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's now solid number 2 in slugging for the season.
I don't think I ever would have imagined that he'd be a 450 slugging percentage guy.
And again, just like what you said, that's what's really encouraging about this. It's not where he's baby-bipping the other team to death and just getting on base. The dude is legit a fearful hitter.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, in this hot streak, he's slugging 587. 587 since August 2nd, since coming off the IL.
Oh, okay. I keep going to August 8th because like he came off the IL, struggled a little bit, and like on August 8th is when he really started like things clicking. I mean, like since that point in time, it's just monstrous.
But 943 OPS since coming off the IL.
No, he's been good for a long time now, actually. And Jim brings up June 1st all the time, but Really, he's been good he was on the IL a while, but he's been good a majority of this year. It's just it got slept on a little while.
He started off. It
Very
started
bad.
off rough.
It was very bad.
Yeah.
April and May were awful.
Yeah.
In spite of the team.
Yeah. But even then, like the underlying numbers with him were good.
And they always have been. That's what's kind of like been so frustrating is he's always hit the ball really hard.
Yeah.
But
But this year, I think we saw like the fly ball percentage was up the whole year. It felt like ground ball was down. The exit velocity was up. It's just it wasn't happening early on, and then just little by little tweak here, little tweak there, and now we have this
fly ball percentage. By the way, you bring that up.
43%.
26.5%.
No, 43% ground ball.
43% ground ball rate. Last year's fly ball rate 17.7. So yeah, he's getting the ball in the air more, and he's hitting. He's always hit the ball hard, always. He's in the top 6 percentile this year in average exit velocity. But when you're hitting the ball that hard and you're hitting it in the air, that's when that power comes.
Yep.
That's what I bring up too, the exit velocity, because like you said, he has hit the ball hard, but it's even gone to a whole nother level. And I know technically it's still a small sample, but I want to tell you is this Ke'Bryan Hayes that we're seeing right now, right? Since August 1st, his exit velocity is 94. I'm sorry, I lost it. Yeah, 94 miles an hour even. If that were to play out for a whole season,
that's
5th in baseball. He's behind Aaron Judge, Acuna, Matt Olson, and Shohei Ohtani. That's it. Like what he's doing right now as far as exit velocity, how hard he's hitting the ball, 5th in baseball, and those are the only names above him. Judge, Acuna, Olson, Ohtani, Ke'Bryan Hayes.
There you go. That just shows you how good he's been. Like that's how good he's been.
Yep.
And by the way, like he's 17 right now as it stands. It's like that he's still 17 right now. Like Jim said, 6 percentile. But like what he's doing this stretch, top 5. I'm excited. I'm sorry. I'm excited.
He's been good. You should be. You should be excited.
For what this season is, man, this September, like this is exciting stuff. This is what I want to see the rest of the year. How Ke'Bryan Hayes finishes.
Yeah.
Huge.
Nailed it.
You want to wrap things up?
Yeah, we can do that. We done?
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. Well, the Pirates are off tomorrow.
That was a fun show. That was a fun show. We actually had like some good stuff to talk about.
You two were wrong in your moments, but it's okay. Tomorrow, Pirates are off. We won't have a show since we did this tonight. You guys can watch your football. And we'll be back on Friday. Pirates play the Braves. Acuna, Hayes, the showdown of the century. Tune in.
I'll be on Friday.
They've won 3 series in a row. Are they going to put up a fight against the Braves in Atlanta?
Hey, why not? Why not? They missed Strider.
Well, I mean, they beat him up last time, so
that is true. Maybe it's a bad
thing. Good talk, guys.
Let's get out of here.
All right. Well, everyone watching, thank you for watching. Everyone listening, thank you for listening. Sorry that you didn't get the full effect because we didn't tell you if we're shaking our heads or not. We'll be back next time. See you later. Bye-bye.
Peace out, Scouts.
See you all.
Hey, you all. Thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.